Hello and welcome back to the fourth and final installation project DIY video. I still haven't really worked out what these are. But if you're new here, I went up to the Evolution HQ up in Sheffield and I created 4 different DIY installations over 7 days to promote the brand new logo and branding that Evolution has just rolled out for 2026. So let's get started. Back when I first learned all about this project, I had lots of ideas of how we were going to celebrate the new branding in the 4 corners of the brand new, fully renovated floor. I wanted things that were exciting and bold and modern, but at the same time they needed to actually work for what the team members wanted. This project is a perfect example of doing something that the team members really needed and wanted within the office space. The floor that was just recently renovated is for the marketing team, specifically the direct consumer marketing team. Now, with lots of different departments of such a global company like Evolution, you can imagine that they have had a lot of achievements and milestones that they've hit over the years. It was really important to me and the team to celebrate these milestones being hit, but also understand that this is a scalable thing and that as the years go by, there'll be more milestones, more achievements, and more awards that get won. So back at the drawing board, I thought about having a modular shelf system. I'd seen this inspiration pic from a museum and I really thought it kind of could hit all parts of what we wanted. I wanted a shelf in which you could put awards and trophies, a picture shelf which we could put plaques that we could make every time there was an achievement, and finally have these hung pieces that could kind of talk about the history and massive parts of what the Evolution D2C team had achieved. As well as this, I obviously wanted to have some writing on the wall to explain the whole piece as well. So the most important part was trying to get the spacing right. This couldn't be something where I think the spacing might be X and then when we get there, actually I decide it's going to be Y. Because the pieces where they get hung on the shelves, the top of the piece had to go perfectly at the top of the shelf, and where it hung down to, it used the shelf to stop it from swinging. What made it all so much more complicated is that the shelf had the back piece, which was higher, and then it had a little tab at the front to stop pieces from coming off. Anyway, it was a whole maths thing. Maths has never been a strong point for me, so I really had to put some brain power to this. Anyway, once all the maths had been done, it was time to make the shelves. We had quite a lot of leftover CLS timber, so we decided to use that as the main piece to hold the shelves together, but we used plywood as well. We used a track saw to cut down the pieces so that we could get the right widths. There were 3 shelves in total. However, because of the writing on the wall, we actually made just one just a little bit longer. Obviously, it was really important to us that everything was made out of wood and everything was cut using Evolution power saws, which wasn't hard because if you missed it from the first episode, my first ever saw was gifted to me from my dad and it was an Evolution power saw. So once all the shelves were made, it was time to focus on the plaques. We had 2 types. We had the larger ones that were white, and these are the ones I was telling you needed to be at very certain height. We then had these slightly smaller plaques. I really like these because what we did, we cut the corner off. This wasn't just because, we liked the look. It's actually because the brand new branding that Evolution has just rolled out has this as part of their design system. It's a 45-degree cut on the corner. So after I'd made all of my plywood plaques, I then took it to my miter saw where I moved it to the 45-degree angle and then I was able to cut off the corners. I made sure that every single one was the exact same. Once that was done, I sanded them all down, got them to be totally uniform, and then I took them home. I'll tell you why in a minute. When it came to the larger plaques, they were quite simple. They stayed being rectangles. Like I say, there was a little bit of maths involved to get it to be the right dimension. I used the same 18mm thick ply for this, so they were pretty big pieces. Using the 3D printer that I mentioned in episode 1, I also made little tabs to stick at the top of these plaques. These were perfectly measured so that they would hang on the lip of the shelf, but also had a little bit of space so that they could glide across pretty easily. Again, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but the key here was that the height was between 2 shelves. If we'd got that wrong, because these little hooks were only at the top, the plaque would have just swung back onto the wall if there wasn't a shelf underneath to hold it. These larger ones I also decided to paint white. I wanted there to be a little bit of difference, and I also wanted you to be able to read it from across the room. So why did I need to take these plaques home? Well, I'm gonna tell you. I wanted to have writing on these plaques, obviously. Otherwise, how else was I going to talk about, well, amazing milestones or the fact that in December 2024, the website hit 100,000 sales? We needed to talk about that. We needed writing. Now, I'd like to say my handwriting's pretty good, but it's not good enough to write on multiple plaques saying lots of different things. So I pulled out my trusty Cricut machine. Now, I have used my Cricut machine for lots of different vinyl cutting things, but I have never stuck vinyl on the wood before, and I had no idea how it was going to go. However, I did a little bit of research, and people said that if you wanted to stick it onto bare wood, the best way of doing that was actually using their iron-on vinyl rather than your normal sticky vinyl. So I had to do a few tests to get it working, and once I remembered to make sure I reversed or mirrored the text because of the way that the iron-on works, it worked brilliantly. After it was printed out and I had de-weeded it to leave just the backwards writing, I stuck it down onto my piece of wood. I then used an ordinary iron to heat it all up. Once it got hot enough, I was able to peel away the plastic and leave the writing underneath. Now, wood's very porous, so I was worried it was going to peel back off, but it didn't. I think because the vinyl kind of melted into the wood, it looked really crisp and really professional. So once I had done that for all 10 mini plaques, it was time to then bring that over to the painted version. Now, when it came to the painted plaques, I didn't have to worry about the iron-on. Because I painted it and I had put a clear lacquer on top, it was a much more smooth surface to apply the vinyl to. So then once we got to the Sheffield office and we were installing everything, I brought that Cricut machine back out and I started cutting out all the little bits of text to put on these pieces. I made a template to make sure every single one would be the same. I de-weeded it, which takes a long time, but I even got my dad to do a bit of it and he found it very therapeutic because it is quite a calming thing to do. Stuck them on, peeled them away, and they look great. Once that was done, I was able to screw the little 3D printed hooks back on. By that time, we'd already installed the shelves onto the wall. The plaques all went up, and then it was time for me to put the writing on the wall. Again, I used my Cricut machine, I used normal vinyl. I have the Cricut Maker 4, which has got quite a large bed, which allowed me to print out quite large pieces of text. But oh my goodness, the weeding took so much time. But once it was done, I was able to put it up on the wall. I used a laser level to make sure it was absolutely straight and level because you don't want wonky text. And then at the last minute, I mean, we were about to head home. Like, we did not have much more time left. I just had enough time to put the writing on the wall. And this is the final result. I love that it was made out of wood. I love that we used Evolution power tools to create it. I love that it's modular. So as more milestones and more things happen, the team can add more to it. I can totally imagine the rest of the office wanting something similar for their floors. So that's it. All 4 of the installs that we did at the HQ for Evolution Power Tools up in Sheffield, done, completed. The secret is out. I wasn't allowed to talk about it for so long, but here it is. I'd love to know which one is your favorite. Was it the blade wall? Was it the screw logo that made me have such sore wrists at the end of it? I'd love to know what you think. Please carry on following this account. This is just a very small mini YouTube series to basically launch my YouTube. So if you've liked what you see and you want to see more of it, please do subscribe. Follow me on TikTok and Instagram. I'm at The Faffing Nest. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.